Everyone wants passive income, but they skip the most important steps. And today we'll be talking about how to actually earn income while you sleep with the right systems.
Your name is Anthony and I'm Janoka, and welcome back to the More Than a Side Hustle podcast. We're happy to be here, I should say. Catch us when you can.
Hey, mama, we are live on the show. All right, say hi,
We have a
people.
visitor.
Hi, people.
Hi.
This is Alani. She is our 3-year-old daughter, and she's going to be a millionaire by 18, right? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, love you.
Love you, mama.
When we finish, okay?
We're going to be finishing in a few minutes. Bye. All right, let's get back to it. So today we're talking about how to build passive income and more importantly, the things that people don't want you to know that no one tells you, the harsh truths about what is this passive income thing.
So I want to start by saying, when it comes to passive income, I think you either have money or you have time. When it comes to income in general, you have money or you have time. And many people don't have the money and then they say they don't have the time either. And I think that in order to get something passive, you got to work, and then eventually it becomes. I don't know if you just start a business passively in general. So that's twofold. You have money or you have time. If you don't have the money, you should have the time. And passive comes with time, if that makes sense. You don't just start it that way automatically.
Absolutely. Now, I want to define what passive income is because sometimes people think that passive income means you're just chilling on the beach and you're doing nothing.
Making money while you sleep. That's kind of how it's spoken about on social media, at least.
Yes. Making money while you sleep is different than you sitting on the beach doing absolutely nothing to make money.
What's the difference when you sleep? You're not doing anything.
Well, yes, you're not doing anything, but I don't believe that there's anything truly that's passive. Number one, once you believe there is no version of passive income, like it all requires some sort of activity up front. Once you understand that, then you could think about how passive is it. I think that's the difference between what most people believe versus the actual truth of what passive income is.
Yeah, I think when you say that, how passive is it, it reminds me of like the way we run the cleaning business. So we are not doing the cleaning.
Yep.
So that part can be seen as passive. However, you still got to run a business. You still got to market. You still got to do your P&Ls. You still got to make sure everything is going right day to day. So there is a passive component,
Yeah.
but there's still a part of it that you have to be involved with, at least.
And most people say they want passive income, but their actions prove otherwise. And I know this because when I talk to people all the time, one of the first things when I ask them, like, why do you want to start a business? They always say, oh, I want other streams of income. Also want to make passive income. Mm-hmm. But it's like, when you think about the richest people in the world and their version of passive income, and you're trying to get to that version of it, you know there's going to be some form of upfront investment. So if you think that you're going to start you're going to invest nothing and make everything, that's a harsh truth that you have to realize that is not going to be possible for you.
Right. At least not a business that you want to kind of grow and scale, right? I think if you're doing it to, I don't know, pay something $100 or less a month, maybe, maybe you can find something like that. But if you really want to scale where you're making thousands of dollars, you're going to have to put the work in, and it will come to a point of some type of passiveness, but getting there is a process.
And talking about it doesn't get you there. So we started our cleaning business about 7.5 years ago. Now we can say we built this thing over the course of 7.5, 8 years. Most people spend that same time talking about the thing that they're going to do. I'm going to start this business, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And it's like, how long have you been thinking about building this income stream or starting this business or whatever it is? And it's like, well, it's been about 4 or 5 years in the making. It's like, you haven't taken action. Like, what's been holding you back this entire time? It's like, I'm afraid to do it. So we're going to dive into some of those things. So let's go ahead and talk about, obviously today, we are at the ability where we can make money in our sleep doing different verticals, but we'll talk about that. So let's get into how you actually earn money while you sleep with the right systems.
So I think that was the one thing I wanted to point out. Systems is probably the name of the game for all of this, right? Things have to be put in place for things to work passively, essentially. And systems is what you need. If it's with AI, if it's with people, if it's with the CRM, whatever that looks like, you do need systems in place. And that's kind of how we're able to do all the things that we do with the systems that we put in place. So here is how to actually earn money passively or while you sleep. So the first one, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, so pick a business model that doesn't require your daily attention or daily involvement or involvement from you as the business owner 24/7. So a few versions of this. So number one, obviously we have our cleaning business. Now, starting off earlier in our business, it did require us to be involved. Now, we wasn't involved 24/7 because we had the systems, processes, and procedures in place. But when you start, you may have to be more involved actively upfront. But you are not going to be trading your time for money the entire time while you're building this business. So choosing a business model that doesn't require you to trade your time for money, that's one version of what we call passive income.
Another thing is digital products. So we have Clean Up Business University, which is a digital product, or anything that we've sold in the past. We've sold how to get out of debt before. And so anything like that where you're putting your knowledge into a course, if you will, or a master class or anything like that can help you. Once you do it, it's kind of set it and forget it unless you kind of grow it. But once you do it, once you get your information out there, you can kind of just sell that. And that can be a passive thing where people can purchase from you overnight anywhere in the world. And that's another way that a lot of people do in this day and age, I would say. Would you say OnlyFans is a digital product?
Yeah. Digital experience because they're not
It's
going
a
out.
digital experience.
Digital experience because they're not. Why are you thinking about OnlyFans right now?
I just thought about it as a
You want to do
digital product.
OnlyFans?
No, why? What?
Where did that even come from?
I just thought about it as it possibly could be like seen as a digital product.
Well, that's an ultra fast way to get to create passive income.
There's different ways. People are clicking on there and doing other things, but I just thought about it as a digital product just in case.
Yeah, so two paths that you could take. So number one would be like the 9 to 5 route where you are taking your money and you're investing it. Everyone is not meant to be an entrepreneur sometimes, right? Sometimes you might be the person that has a really good job, you make really decent income, and your goal is just to invest that money, quote unquote, passively. But you got to get active up front. So you might take your 9 to 5 money, you might invest in things like the S&P index funds where it can grow, 10%, 7 to 10% year after year, what doesn't require you to go out and do any work.
Oh, okay.
Then your money starts to compound where that's the version of passive income where you're like, oh, it might start off at a few $100s a year, and then it might turn into a few thousand and then $100,000 a year. And we've seen some things grow as quickly as $100,000 in a month. So those are things that you could start very early on that is active up front, but long-term investments tend to turn passively down the line.
So two paths to passive income. Like we started listing.
Oh,
and then you jumped to that. I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, we're going to talk about businesses, but that's one version of it for those who are like, well, listen, I want to keep my 9 to 5. That's totally fine. But it's going to be really hard to replace
It's a slower route.
Yeah, it's a slower route. It's going to be really hard to replace a $60,000 a year income by investing in S&P, index funds for 10, 20, 30 years.
Another slower way I kind of think of is rental properties. I know that's a big thing. But in the grand scheme, depending on your goals, right? If you're just getting $500, if you have 2 properties, you're getting $500 each. Maybe that's $1,000. Is that enough for you, right? I know the long-term game of renting is like the equity and things like that, but that can be a slow build. But that can be considered passive as well if you have a property manager in place, things like that. So that's one side of it. And then like the fast side is what we were speaking about with the digital products. And
I want to stay with the rental properties because it takes a lot of compounding to actually replace your income with that. If you're doing traditional rental properties,
a lot of properties.
So you might be cash flowing, which means that after all expenses, you might have $100, $200 to yourself. But you just invested $60,000 in order to make $100, $200. Now, how many times do you have to do that in order for it to compound to the actual returns that you want? That is a really long-term game. Or unless you're investing aggressively up front, then you could turn it. Or if you want to go to commercial or multifamily, things like that. But that's another way to do it where you see people compounding their investments. But again, you want to replace a $60,000 or $120,000 a year salary, it might take a little bit more time.
So those are the two separate ways, the two paths of passive income, we should say. So like the slower route where you're investing, rental properties, 401ks, things like that, which are 9 to 5. And then there's the faster route where you may start a business. You have digital products. You set a goal of 100K in 1 year, 2 years. There's no right or wrong way. It's just what you feel comfortable with, or you can do both of them at the same time, right? And that can kind of get you to your goal quicker, if you will.
Yeah, that allowed us, our story was we went from $0 to $3 million in 7 years with our cleaning business. And then we went from $0 to $3 million in about 4 years with our digital businesses. So you see how those wins start to compound a lot faster by creating your own outline and goals from that. Number 2, document your process once. So you could use a system to actually record how your business is run. So this becomes your training, your system, pretty much your SOP library for your people.
So that whenever you get maybe a VA or you grow, you get an operations manager or something in place, you have these things down. Now, documenting, especially in this day and age, so many people do it and you should be doing it because you just never know. I think especially people love the story of the buildup. So whenever somebody comes out with a product and then they share the behind the scenes, they share how they thought of the name and then they were in the factory or whatever it looks like. People love to see that. They don't
Absolutely.
like to just see the product, the end product. So making sure that your document is, I think in the day and age that we live in, you definitely should be, because I think that helps your brand, that helps your business, and whatever it is you're working on.
That reminds me of a story. Somebody was telling me about their cleaning business journey. They did, I think it was like $500,000, whatever the number was. And it was like, well, we didn't hear from you for the last 3, 4, 5 years. You telling your story today is great, but we want to see the come up. We want to know the pitfalls. We want to know the ups and downs. So when you go back to our social media back in 2017, when we started documenting everything that we were doing at the heart ceremony above our heads in our social media page, we literally documented the day of our wedding up to where we are today. So you can see us before kids, you can see us before we moved down to Texas, you can see us before businesses, everything. So we're documenting the process, and then as we're going through, we're just documenting our lives. So people think about documenting, sometimes like creating content, but it can just be documenting your lives as you're going through. But then when it comes to the business side, once we hired people, well, before we hired people, we knew that there was going to be someone who needed these documents from us. So it's like, what are we doing day to day? What's our call flow? What's our schedules? What can we share with the team so that we can then grow and scale it without us having to be involved every single day? And going back to the cleaning business, when we had our first daughter, Alani, right before we were going on leave, we essentially documented the entire business using Loom, using Google Docs, using everything we knew that we had in our power in order to share with our operations manager that effectively help us scale our cleaning business while we were out. And I think the very next month we did like $60,000 while we were tending to our newborn.
So number 1 is picking the business model that doesn't need you daily. Number 2 is documenting your process. Number 3 is automating lead follow-up. You're probably like, huh, what? So at this point, I think if you have a website or anything, you should have a way to kind of automatically respond to somebody. If it's an automatic text, if it's an automatic email, whatever services that you're doing or providing, or even a product that you're providing, you should have a way to automate a response. So that if people that contact you at 12 a.m., you don't need to be responding right away. They can get that automation and you go from there. This just helps, I think, just the day and age that we live in. People are shopping at all times. People are doing things at all times. And this helps you to keep that client. This helps you to kind of automate your processes. Obviously, we live in a world of kind of AI and things like that. And if you don't utilize some of it, maybe not all, I know people don't like it, you kind of get left behind with the business and the way things are going. So the more that you're able to automate things, the more revenue you're possibly able to bring in, the more time you get back because you didn't have to physically go and respond. Your automation may give the client what they needed just by the text back or the email. So automation would be key, especially in this day and age, I would say, if you're building something passive so that when you're on the beach, you don't got to respond right away.
Yeah, I remember this one story with, forgot this lady's name, but she literally booked us at 12 o'clock midnight. And I remember the entire journey because it literally came in and said, you got a new lead. And then it was like, you got a new booking, you got a new customer. So this lead was able to find us on the platform, reach out to us reach out to our cleaning business, and then eventually close themselves. So if they're calling your business at midnight, who are they going to talk to? More often than not, no one, unless you're using a VA or AI. But more often than not, if you aren't, you're trying to bootstrap it, you could send them directly to your booking website. So we have a system that sends a missed call automation text back from like a system that we created called TidyTrack. And if you want to learn more about that, you go to tidytrack.io. It is a CRM for cleaning business owners by cleaning business owners. And one of those automations are missed call text back. So even if you don't win that client, now they're going through a sequence of 3, 4, 5 emails, and it might be a 3, 4, 5 text messages with the goal of essentially booking that client and getting them back on a schedule. So no matter what business you have, you need to be using automating lead follow-ups as you're going through day to day.
And this is, like we said, a way to book clients without having to lift a finger. Back to that passive feeling, that automation. But once again, you got to kind of set that up to get there, and then it will become passive, and that I don't need to speak to you. And that's why we have, like you said, a website for our cleaning business so that people don't always need to speak to us in order to get what they want. Essentially, we live in a world where people want it immediately. If I don't have to say anything to anybody and I can find it in one place and get what I want, then that's what people want. the fourth thing, outsourcing fulfillment. So whether it's a VA outsourcing, for our situation, outsourcing a cleaner to go do the job as we're the middleman, for Uber's outsourcing it to people that drive and have cars, things like that. Outsourcing your fulfillment, you do not have to do every single part of your business.
And you shouldn't.
Now, initially, once I gotta go back to that, the beginning stages, you are doing all of it so that you can teach somebody eventually, and that you know the business just in case something breaks, just in case somebody can't come in, whatever that looks like. But to run a business, you don't want to be the one doing it all the time, because then there's never a break. It kind of reminds me how people say, 9 to 5 is 40 hours. Entrepreneurship is 80, 85 hours. Because then there's never a break. That's not why you started the business, for you to be in it 24/7. So you want to be able to outsource your fulfillment as much as possible. Like I said, not everything, but as much as possible would be something.
So if you think about, like Janoka said, Uber outsources their fulfillment, Airbnb outsources their fulfillment, Amazon, you see the Amazon trucks pulling up, they outsource their fulfillment to third-party carriers.
Yeah, sometimes people just driving a regular car. It don't be an Amazon truck.
Sometimes it's not an Amazon truck. So when people come to us and say, well, how do you run a cleaning business without cleaning? We're outsourcing the fulfillment. It doesn't mean that we're not running the business on the back end. But if you think as the owner and not the operator, you're going to know from day one that I'm not going to be the one going out and cleaning every single home, because I'm not going to be able to scale that business. So no matter what you're doing, if you realize that you have to do every single piece of the business, it's going to be ultimately extremely difficult to scale. What happens if you call out? Yeah.
Get sick.
What happens if you get sick? Worst case scenario, what happens if you, vacation is a good one. What happens if you get hurt and you physically can't do the work or labor, or you can't show up to your office that day? Who's going to do the work? When you think about your 9 to 5 job, when you call out your job, is the CEO coming and sit in your seat?
No, the answer is no. I thought it was rhetorical.
Well, but we know that. They know that, but we still get the question all the time. It's like, how you do this? So I want you guys to think about outsourcing the fulfillment. And then even if you aren't at a place where you can't outsource the actual labor, maybe you outsource some of the tasks to a virtual assistant. You could go to places like onlinejobs.ph or onlinejobs.ph or upwork.com to find a VA from the Philippines for like $5 an hour. And now you can outsource some of those admin tasks. And that's one of the first things that I recommend people doing, is outsourcing those admin tasks so that you could get more time back to actually work on the business instead of in the business. And then number 5, a repeatable sales funnel. So what does that mean? So if you think about a funnel, is someone that is coming to learn more about your services, and
Mostly through a website.
And maybe not a web. You can do postcard funnels. There's tons of ways to do it. But as we're talking about the digital age, most of the time they're gonna be coming through the website, and your goal is to take them from a cold prospect, meaning they are just learning about your business, to an actual client or customer. So that funnel might be different pieces of that journey. So one of the pieces of the funnel might be awareness. They never even knew about you. So now they're seeing an ad or something, and now we're talking about systems, right? So it doesn't mean you're going out and doing cold calling or you're doing face-to-face door knocking and things like that, because those aren't systems, right? That doesn't mean somebody has to manually go out and do it. But you're talking about a digital funnel, even for your cleaning business, for our cleaning business, awareness, just learning more about you, what I could do for you, how I could service you.
A podcast can be part of
a podcast is part of the funnel. If you have a local service business, you could do a local podcast.
Usually, like when I think about websites with going shopping, when they say that they will give you 15% off if you put your phone number, so that they can text you a code.
Yep.
So now you're part of their funnel, you're part of their ecosystem. So now they'll text you, and then they'll probably be emailing you once you actually do the order. And so that's kind of in a smaller scale of funnel, if you will. Or when you're checking out, they also show you things that usually match with this product that you're buying, or people usually buy with. That's part of a funnel, essentially, if you think about it in that way when you're shopping. That's what I think about. So having that allows people to see like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, that looks cute together, so maybe I will get it. It's just giving people more options that they maybe knew about or didn't know about or did know about, but wasn't considering getting it until you presented it, right? And sometimes, if you spend $100, then we'll give you this money off. That's all part of like a funnel for most, for these stores and big brands, if you will.
And these are repeatable funnels. If you think about IKEA, when you go in IKEA, that's one big ass funnel. Oh my God. You have to walk through everything. Every single aisle is a funnel. So and think about it, right before you check out, what do you normally see in general? Like different stores.
All the dinkety thing that you don't want your kids running through. All the little things that you don't want your kids to see.
The candies, the bars, the little toys.
Baby has it.
These are upsells.
Sephora has it. Yeah, all of them have it.
These are upsells in your funnel. These are repeatable processes. Now,
the low ticket. Those are the smaller, like the travel size.
Exactly.
Cheaper price. Say this because it racks out.
So these are repeatable sales processes. So for your checkout for our cleaning business, it might say Do you want to add a move in, move out? Do you want to add a deep clean? Do you want to add your fridge? Do you want to add your oven? Oh, we could also
We can do windows. Didn't know that. We can do carpet.
These are all sales funnels that we have in our cleaning business that you guys should have in your businesses that will allow you to create that passive income.
Right. That's funny because these companies really be kind of going in. So those are, just to repeat it back, and then we're going to get into some barriers that we kind of see. So the way to actually earn money while you sleep, passively, I'll use this way. Picking a business model that doesn't need you daily, we spoke about, that's number 1. Number 2, documenting your process. Number 3, automating lead follow-up. Number 4, outsourcing fulfillment. And number 5, creating a reputable sales funnel. Now, we spoke mostly kind of in a digital way, but we tried to give examples for you to see it
in our cleaning business.
In our cleaning business and ways that it may fit for your specific business or your model as well. But we also wanted to speak about kind of the barriers around why people kind of get stuck with creating things, because either we've been through it or we've heard it from our students time and time again.
Absolutely.
We was on IG Live last week and somebody was like, yeah, I'm just stuck. I'm just scared and I have no reason to be scared, but I just am. Mm-hmm. So just kind of the barriers around that. So the things that are actually stopping you, right? You sometimes say, I don't have the right idea. I don't have the money. That's a big one. I don't have the skills. Maybe I don't have the time. And I think I go back to like, you have to start somewhere, right? So if you don't have the money, right, it's not going to just fall into your lap. I mean, unless you take out a loan or credit card or something, but generally it's not going to just fall into your lap. So is there things that you can do to then build up to that? And it doesn't mean that you have to start this grand business either, right? Because I believe that if you're starting a business, you should have some type of money to help you grow. But is there other things that you can do to kind of get started? Right? If you're thinking like, well, I don't have the money, maybe what you need to do only requires $400, right? Maybe it's not as much as you think. Maybe $400 can get you a step closer to wherever you need to be to then start.
We started our cleaning business with $1,500 and
less than $1,500,
yeah. And we grew it to almost a $3 million business. Right. So if you think about the grand scheme, it's like, oh, $1,500 is a lot of money to start a business. Well, if you look back 7-8 years and you made almost $3 million, was $1,500 a lot looking back? It was more about the risk. And I think that's really what it comes down to. I was reading this quote and they was like, the risk to reward ratio is about 10%. So whatever you want to make, 10% of that needs to be your risk. So think about it like this. If you want to make $100, your rate of risk is going to be $10. You want to make 1,000, your rate of risk is going to be 100. If you want to make
10%, that's kind of low.
If you want to make 10,000, your rate of risk is going to be about 1,000. You want to make 100,000, you got to be willing to risk at least 10,000. And if you want to make $1 million, you got to be willing to risk at least $100,000. And then billionaires, think about them. Elon Musk is shipping off rockets. Each rocket is a couple $100 million to do. And if it blows up, that's the risk. This is why billionaires and millionaires are able to get to their goals a lot faster, because their risk to reward ratio, they understand it and they're willing to risk something in order to get to that reward.
And those are some of the like external barriers, right? So like I said, I don't have the right idea. I don't have enough money. I don't have the skills. But then there are internal barriers, which is kind of us at war with ourselves.
Yep.
Fear of failure, perfectionism, imposter syndrome. I think we all have that at some point in our lives, but does it keep us in one place, or where do we go from there when those things happen? I would say make the difference. Perfectionism, you need to know everything first. But then the question becomes why? Mm-hmm. Like, the information now what? And I think with business specifically, or you starting something that's passive or side hustle, however you want to describe it, you have to go through it to really understand. It's one of those things. It's really one of those things you don't know until you go through it. Absolutely. I don't think everything in life is that way, but specifically when it comes to failures and things happening in a business, you have to go through those feeling, that gut, that customer cursing you, whatever that is, you have to go through it, because even as much as anybody can describe it to you, until you go through it, you don't really understand or know how you will handle it, right? So, you're never going to be ready, if you will, or it's never going to be perfect, but that is the beauty of a business. That is what most people like, because no one is perfect. Mm-hmm. So, right? People want to see the good, bad, and indifferent. People understand that you're going to get a bad review, because that is life. You cannot please everyone. How you respond to that is different. So kind of, that internal barrier that sticks with us, that's something that I think we have to sometimes talk through, maybe talk with people that's done it before to kind of help you get past that.
Your breakthrough is going to be the day I stopped planning and the day I started doing. So as we wrap, guys, I want you to think about these things. So number one, stop lying to yourself. If you want passive income, you got to do something active up front. Remember, this is the harsh truth that most people do not tell you about passive income. It's going to require some level of activity up front before it becomes passive.
And you can spend the next 2, 5, 7 years kind of talking about it, or you can spend those years building it, right? It makes such a difference. We have people come back in our DM saying like, oh, I was interested 3 years ago. And it's like 3 years ago, you could have made 500,000 by now, 100,000 by now, and you're holding yourself back. So go ahead, get started to do the thing that you want to do, whatever that may be. And then the question becomes for yourself, like, what are you going to do in the next 24 hours? So we kind of are open and honest with ourselves when we say something and we're like, okay, so what's the next step? And so that's the question for you. Like, what is the next step after listening to this? What will you do knowing what it takes to kind of have passive income? What are you going to do with this information? Is it just like, appreciate you guys telling me, or is it you actually doing something different in your life?
Let's go. And if you're serious about starting, here's some ways we can help. Number one, below this video or somewhere you guys are watching this or listen to us, you could join us at cleaningbusinessmasterclass.com/ebook. You can learn everything about how we started a 7-figure cleaning business. You could also join any of our free master classes where we go over in great detail on how we were able to earn a 7-figure income actively up front, but then passively down the line. And then also you could just subscribe or like more episodes like this so we can help you out. You can watch any of the episodes that you'll see around this video to help you get to that next step.
Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.
Peace.